Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Leadership Project with your host Mick Spears. We bring you thought-provoking guests and topics every week to challenge your thinking about leadership. Our aim is to help you become the leader that you wish you always had as we learn together and lead together. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Leadership Project. I'm greatly honoured today to be joined by Mariel Tablan. Mariel is one of the greatest voices in the Philippines around leadership. She's a top leader in what they call Malasakit, which means empathy. And she is the founder of an organisation called Igniting Transformation Life Coaching Services. And she has a background in developing leadership academies and L&D inside organisations. So she's been on the inside of corporations doing a lot of work around leadership development and learning and development. And she also does coaching services. And that's all around this kind of element of training, mentoring, and coaching. And that's what we're going to focus on today. We're going to focus on what role training, mentoring, and coaching plays in a leader's development. What do those things mean? What are the differences between them, and how do they work together in the development of our next generation of leaders? So without any further ado, Mariel, I would love it if you could say hello to the audience and give us a flavour of your background and what led you to be in this field of work and doing what you do today.
All right. Thank you, Mick. Hello, everyone. It's nice to be here. I'm very excited to share with you my story, my experiences, and hopefully this will help you moving forward. What led me to where I am today? First of all, I came into training because I wanted to give back to the industry that, saved my life. And the industry that I am in, aside from professional coaching, I am in the life insurance industry. So when my dad passed away, he left a policy, and that allowed me to finish my college degree on time without having to work while studying. So I chose training because I wanted to teach other sales professionals in the industry so that, they can continue the legacy of the industry. So that's where it all started. And, years after that, when I discovered coaching, I discovered it because I was looking for a tool to add more value to our sales managers, because I can't mentor them because I'm not in sales, which later on, I think we will talk about that more. So I can't mentor them because I'm not in sales. So I was looking for a tool to add more value to them, to challenge them more, because they've been in the business for more than 20 years, most of them. So they've been in the business since before I got there. So how do I add value? That's when I discovered coaching. And, moving forward to today, that's how I got started in training and then in coaching.
So let's start unpacking that a little bit, particularly around the vertical that you've landed in. So first of all, what I'm seeing in front of me is someone that's driven by purpose. So I'm sorry to hear of the loss of your father, but I can see that as a turning point in your life where you realize that policy that your father put in place was so impactful for you and your family. So then I can see someone that went, okay, I need to help in this area. I need to help other human beings that go through loss, that go through grief, and what happens structurally after. And I'm making an assumption here. If it's a poor assumption, please correct me. But let's say a primary breadwinner in a family, unfortunately, is lost. What happens afterwards? So I can see someone that's very purpose driven there. And then I'm seeing coaching as your vehicle as to how you can help multiply around that purpose. How much of that purpose still sticks with you today and drives you?
It's still pretty much with me, 100%. It's just that the purpose has transitioned, from one training, just teaching, but it's still about helping people in their journey of change, of growing. So from training to coaching. So the purpose is the same, which is to ignite transformation, hence the name of my company. But the tool becomes more. So from training to coaching, so you just add on to the tool, but the purpose remains the same.
Yeah, I'm really loving this, Mariel. And what I'm seeing is when we get those two things congruent in our life, the collision of our skills, our superpower, the thing that we're good at, but we channel it towards something that has meaning and impact, this is when we can do great things. Is that what I'm seeing there?
Absolutely. Because when you have a purpose, when you have a goal, a lot of challenges will come. It's not easy. And a lot of, hurts will also come. But when you hold on to your purpose, for me, it helped me get back on track. So sometimes things will happen and a lot of things will not happen according to your plan. A lot of challenges will come along the way, but always focusing on the purpose of why you started, why I started in the first place allows me to get back on track, to focus on what's working, to focus my energy on who cares. So sometimes we care for a lot, but not all of them will reciprocate that, right? So focus on who needs it, who cares, and who will accept the help that you are giving.
There's a few things coming to mind there, Mariel, when I hear that. The first one is I feel like we're channeling Nietzsche a little bit. So Nietzsche's famous saying, and forgive me that it's gender specific, he did come from a different generation, that he who has a why can outlast any how. So yes, if you are a strongly purpose-driven individual, you will have bump on the road. You will have limiting factors and challenges that get thrown in your face. But when you believe in your purpose, you will find a way. You will find a way because you're driven by that why.
Yeah, definitely. Some people are stuck in finding the how, but the most important part is first have that solid why, because the how will follow. You will find the way, you will learn the way because your why is so big.
So then what I'm hearing is, as you unpack it further, like just watching you in front of me, I can see your mind ticking over of who is it that I'm serving? What problem am I helping them solve? And how, this is when the how comes, how can my unique skill sets help them to overcome that problem? All aligned to the original purpose. All right. Really powerful, Mariel. So you have landed in a progression and you started in training. Interesting comment about mentoring, where you don't have the skill set or the experience of the people that you are serving today, but you knew that you could help them to increase their impact. So you start in training, you're not a mentor, and now you transition to a predominantly coaching style. So let's unpack this. What, in your words, are the differences between training, mentoring, and coaching?
All right. Training is giving the fundamentals. It's sort of like giving someone a formula because somebody else left that formula for us. So Tony Robbins said success leaves clues. So somebody, created a framework for training and we are now using that. So it's a framework that we follow. It's a fundamental that we follow. So for example, if there's someone in the team that's new to training, what does that person need? He needs a framework wherein he can follow so that his platform skills will be better, so that he can engage the participants more effectively, so that he can deliver the message clearly. So that's the training part. We're teaching the person by using a certain framework. That framework can be, as old as time, or it can be a framework that you created on your own because of experience. So that's training. Mentoring is transferring of skills because you are expert. You are considered an expert in that skill. So transferring of my skill as the expert to another. So I am a subject matter expert. For example, I can say that I am an expert in coaching. Therefore, if I were to elevate the skill of a trainer to go beyond the classroom and start doing coaching with the students, that he or she has, then I can transfer my coaching skills to that trainer. So it's based on my coaching experience, based on my coach training. So it's a combination of training and experience. So that's mentoring, but it's transferring that skill to another person. So again, going back to my example, elevating the skill of a trainer. So coaching is going back again to the example. For this trainer, if we have a coaching session, it will be a partnership. I will be like his or her thinking partner, and we will explore his own creativity, his own flavor of what he wants to put in, maybe in the training or in the coaching conversation. We will be creative in terms of finding the styles that will work best for him. So in the coaching conversation, I am not feeding him or her the information based on my experience. He is or she is exploring his own potential. He is exploring, his own capabilities, or maybe stretching even his own capabilities. So in a nutshell, those are the differences among training, mentoring, and coaching.
All right, so I want to play back a little bit of what I'm hearing there. So in training, I'm hearing skills. I'm hearing skills and knowledge, learning how to do something. And in psychology, we call that a bridging mindset, where there's a skill I don't have today, so I'm going to go through some level of training or education to fill that skill gap or knowledge gap. So bridging from point A to point B in terms of skills and knowledge. On the mentoring, I'm then hearing experience. I'm hearing talking to someone that is 20 years ahead of me in the same profession and listening to them about, so what challenges did you experience and how did you overcome those challenges? And then the coaching, I'm hearing something completely different, and something in psychology we would call a heightening mindset, which is unlocking someone's full potential. It's already inside them, but they're being held back by limiting beliefs, or something has been troubling them from fulfilling their full potential. So that's the three things I'm hearing there. And I want to kind of work through that almost one by one. But let's start with, is there a time and place for all three of those? Is one better than the other, or do you need all three?
You need all three. So there's no one best way. That's the beauty of learning and development, right? There's no one best way. So based on experience, you need training when someone is new. So like the example that I used earlier, if the trainer is new and he or she doesn't have experience in training, then he needs to go through onboarding, learning platform skills, learning facilitation skills. So if he's new, training is important. If there are things that he learned that, this person is having quite a challenge in terms of application, then mentoring can come in. So it's supplementing the training with one-on-one sessions that will help the person apply where he's having challenges in, and also injecting your own experience of how you're able to navigate that. So still can be applicable to new, maybe a new person by tenure or new in terms of the role. And coaching actually cuts across everyone because it is really helping that person add his own flavor to it, being authentic in how he's doing things without necessarily, changing the entire formula. But we have our own way, right, of doing things. So coaching is, I think, the main umbrella for all, but you need all three, especially when it comes to learning and development.
All right, so I'm definitely seeing a place for all three, and I'm going to throw a metaphor at you at the moment. It's a real life metaphor, if you like. And to be clear, neither you or I are medical doctors, but I think that we can all relate to this story. So I'm thinking about a surgeon, and I'm hoping that a surgeon, before they've got a scalpel in their hand with a live patient in front of them, I hope they've studied anatomy pretty darn strongly and they know how the body works, right?
I hope so too.
That would be teaching, training, the bridging mindset. Now I'm imagining a surgeon going in for an operation of a patient that they've never had this patient presentation before. Like there's something peculiar about this patient that they're about to go into surgery, hip replacement, insert any surgery you want. And there's something unusual about this patient. So they go to a senior surgeon 10 years ahead of them and go, hey, have you ever come across one of these before? What did you do? So now I'm hearing a bit of mentoring. And then if that surgeon wants to become the best possible surgeon they could become, this is where I could imagine coaching, overcoming limiting beliefs again, having a high performance mindset, working on emotional intelligence. I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to say at medical school, they don't learn a lot about emotional intelligence and how to relate to other human beings, but they might be able to get that through coaching. And all three together will make an amazing surgeon. How does that sit with you?
That's a perfect example. So in coaching, you don't have to be the subject matter experience to coach someone. You just have to be the process expert in terms of coaching.
Yeah, really good. Okay, so I do want to work towards coaching and spend the back end of the interview talking about that. I'm going to throw two other ones that come up from time to time when we hear about these things, Mariel, and just get your professional opinion about these. So the first one is the role of a consultant. So many organisations out there, they'll be having a problem. It could be an issue with life cycle costs. It could be an issue with supply chain. It could be an issue with product engineering, something like that. And they bring in a consultant, and a consultant usually comes in with a solutioning mindset. They come in to solve your problem. Do you see what are the differences there between the solutioning mindset of a consultant versus, let's say, a mentor or a coach or a teacher?
Okay. A consultant, when they come into an organization, they, of course, need to do fact find, correct? So once they're done with the fact finding, they know the problems of the organization, they provide options or solutions for the organization. So that's in a nutshell what a consultant does. They help the organization solve the problems or close the gaps. But the solutions come from the consultant most of the time because it is also based on their own experience and expertise. So while coaching is also solutions focused, but the solutions doesn't come from the coach. It still comes from the coachee because it's the coachee who knows best what he can do, what he wants to do, but is afraid of starting, what is a stretch for him, what is feasible today, what is not, what will make the most impact today. And so what can I prioritize today? What can I not? It's different in the sense that the solutions coming from a consultant, the organization actually has the option of, saying yes to it or not. But in coaching, majority of the time, because it comes from the coachee, the accountability and ownership is higher because they thought of the solutions. It was not something that was just, handed down to them, or it was not sort of like an instruction. You do this, you try this, 1, 2, 3. So ownership in a consulting relationship may be lower. That's why a consultant may have to sell more the options and the impact of the options so that the organization will sort of buy the solution.
Yeah, all right. So I'm hearing three things here. I'm going to start with a positive one based on what you were just saying, where the role of a consultant, it could play a good role and help an organisation. And that's this one. First of all, consultants are sometimes accused of borrowing your watch so that they can tell you the time. That's the joke around consultants. But if they're doing a really good job, listening to what you said, Mariel, they're going to do a deep investigation of your problem for you and help you see what you're not seeing. All right. So to borrow some words from Stephen Chedleski, sometimes it's hard to read the label on the jar from inside the jar. So a consultant can come in and say, hey, and they'll tell you things that if you were paying attention, you would have seen. But from their experience, from their tools and techniques that they use, they're bringing to light an element of awareness that was not there before they arrived. So I see that as something very positive. It could be about brand. It could be a brand consultant and you're not seeing what they're seeing. But when they come in, they're helping you to see a different perspective.
Or there are cases when the organization is aware, it's just that nobody wants to talk about it. So it's the consultant that's courageous enough to point these things out. That can also be the case.
Yeah, they might have the psychological safety that, hey, I'm the consultant around here. I can talk about the elephant in the room that no one else is talking about. All right. So there's definitely a role there. But then I'm hearing this element around, I'm going to use a biblical reference here and say, if you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. If you teach a man to fish, he'll eat for a year. And I'm hearing in consulting, we're giving them the fish. In coaching, we could be teaching them to fish so that they become self-sustaining going forward. And then the third one was the big one, and you really nailed this one, the ownership and the accountability. A consultant can write a report and shake hands with the CEO and say, pay my invoice and see you later. And if the organisation applies or doesn't apply the recommendations in the report, he or she still gets paid. Whereas the coachee is going to take much more ownership and accountability of what happens next. How does that summary sit with you, Mariel?
Spot on, Mick.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to the last one of the mindsets before I want to work back to coaching and spend the rest of the time on coaching. So the other one is around therapy. And there's a lot of people that confuse coaching with therapy. And therapy is what we call a resolving mindset. What do you see as the differences between therapy and coaching?
Just a disclaimer, I am not a therapist, so I will just share my thought on it. A therapist is more focused on the past and how the past experiences, how our backgrounds, how we were brought up, maybe the culture also, beliefs that were passed on from our parents to us. It may be consciously or unconsciously passed on to us. So it's those behind us and how it is affecting us now. So in therapy, there is some sort of a fixing that needs to be done, looking at the past, how it's affected you now. We need to fix this so that you can function better. And usually people who go to therapy are those who are having a hard time in their daily functions. Like if they're stressed and anxious, they can't focus on the job anymore because they're too anxious to work. They're too anxious to connect to people. So usually it's that for therapy. For coaching, there's no fixing because in the mindset of every coach, we are all capable. We all have the ability to choose. Maybe I'm stuck now. That's why I'm going to a coach and I have an intention of being unstuck. I want to move forward, but I don't know how. So it is having that mindset of I am here. This is my reality, but that's where I want to go. And I want guidance on how to get there. I don't know how. That's why I need someone to talk to. Let's explore together how to get there. So did that answer the question? So for me, those are the differences between therapy and coaching.
Yeah, really good, Mariel. I think you're spot on. And once again, I'll say openly, I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a licensed therapist either, but I believe that there's a place in the world for therapy, right? And unfortunately, sometimes there's a stigma about therapy, but it can be very powerful in helping people resolve, hence the resolving mindset. They can resolve things from their past that are stopping them from progressing or functioning as they would like. And it could be a repressed memory or something it could be grief. Sorry to come back to you for a second here, Mariel. It could be the grief of losing a parent when you're young. And if you didn't process it fully at the time, it's kind of still sitting there. And a therapist or a psychiatrist even can help you to process those things and resolve things from your past so that you can move forward. Then what I'm hearing then about coaching then is it's about what is holding you back now and what actions are you going to take into the future. So therapy past, coaching now and into the future. How does that sit with you?
Perfect. It's perfect.
All right. Okay. So I will say again about the stigma. If anyone's listening to the show that does have demons, we all have them, by the way. But if you've got demons that you're struggling to process, please do contact a organisation in your local area. In Australia, we have a thing called Lifeline. In many other countries, you have similar programs. Many organisations have employee assistance programs, EAPs. So if you are struggling, there is no shame whatsoever. If you're struggling to deal with something from your past, please do go and seek help. There is no shame in that whatsoever. In fact, it's not a sign of weakness to stick up your hand and ask for help. It's a sign of strength. So please do that.
And Mick, even in coaching sessions, the coaches, we need to also acknowledge the limitation of our expertise, and that is coaching. So I've had several experiences wherein a coachee will be sharing that I am having trouble in this, I'm very anxious, these are, my thoughts on this. And when, there are red flags sort of, during a coaching conversation. So when you hear that, just be open and say, this is not my area of expertise. Have you considered, looking for help professionally from others who are qualified to help you with this? So that is perfectly okay. And actually, it's more healthy and it's more professional to say it to your clients or coaches.
Well said, Mariel. And we do have a lot of coaches that listen to this show. It's one of our primary audiences. So remember your scope of practice. Remember that you're not a licensed therapist. And if you see someone with the red flags that Mariel is talking about, that is how you can serve them best. Sure, give them a good listening tour. You're a coach and coaches are great listeners. But if they need help, the best way you can serve them is to point them in the right direction. Well said, Mariel. All right, so let's get into coaching more deeply. This is a challenging question, I think. I'd love to hear your answer on this. Why does coaching work?
Why does coaching work? Coaching works because you allow the person to think for themselves. Growing up, we're used to our parents telling us what to do. But honestly, how many % of that did you follow and listen to, right? I always use that example when I talk to new coaches. So it works because you gave them the space to think, to doubt themselves, to openly accept, to stretch, to be creative. You gave them space to just talk. Sometimes they just want to talk. And, while talking, they come to an aha moment and you don't even have to ask anything because they've answered their own questions or their own concerns. So I think coaching works because you are giving them that space and the support and the chance to prove to themselves that I can do this. I'm afraid, yes, but I know I can do this. I was speaking to a client early this morning and, his realization after 2 weeks have passed because he has an assignment in the past 2 weeks. And once he did that earlier today, he said, I already know I can do this. It just takes time. So imagine the realization. He's afraid, but he did it. And he's accepting the fact that, it's not an overnight thing. It takes time, but I'm giving myself the chance. So the confidence is already there. So I think that's why coaching works because we accept them. We don't judge them. We're just, giving them the space to explore their full potential.
There's two really powerful things that are coming to my mind there, Mariel, as you speak. So the first one is that people support what they create. So if you tell someone what to do, they may or may not do it. But if they determine their own course of action, there's a damn good chance they're going to do it. And then the second one is this element around space, right? So think about the lives that we live. We're busier now than ever before, and we only seem to get busier every year, right? So we have busy, cluttered lives, and a busy brain is not a creative brain. So a coach holding space for you just allows you to use your word, explore, allows you to explore. Tell us more. Tell me more about this word, explore. What does it mean to you, and how do we create that in a coaching setting?
In a coaching setting, we encourage the clients or the coaches to explore when we listen, not just to the words that they're saying, but to the energy, the changes in their energy, changes in their body language, changes on their faces, or sometimes they're telling you stories, but it's the story behind the story, that you should be listening to. Like, for example, in some coaching conversations, you will hear beliefs like, or a story on, it sounds like it's a sin to rest. But they won't tell you that because they're so used to it. What they will tell you is, I feel guilty when I'm resting. I feel that I am not productive, etc. So you listen to those stories because it's the story behind that story that allows them to have a change in terms of paradigm, or it allows them to, take a look at themselves in the mirror. Okay, so this is why I'm super tired because every time I rest, this is how I feel. I've never noticed this before. So that's giving them space. That's encouraging them to explore, to just talk, and you not judging them for feeling that way. Most of the time, they tell you things that only you know, and not judging them helps because they need to verbalize it in order to process it. They need to, share everything that's going on inside their head before they can funnel it down to what really matters, maybe at that moment, or what really matters moving forward. So that is, giving them that space and encouraging them to explore. And you just listening and challenging them even, when you're sensing a shift in energy, or if there's a word that they keep repeating, when you challenge them, that's also helping them explore because it's essentially taking a look at themselves in the mirror and saying, is this really what it is? Is this really who I am? Or is this just something that's blocking me now and it's preventing me from who I can be? Because we all have a design, I've always believed that we were designed to be someone on this earth, and a lot of blocks are on the way, and we just need help so that we can fully be who we were designed to be in this lifetime.
I'm really loving this story behind the story. That really resonated with me, Mariel. And what I'm hearing there, because people do talk in stories. I think that's a wonderful part of our communication as human beings. So people do talk in stories, but it's also they talk in content. There's all kinds of symptoms, situations, whatever, they're telling you a story about what happened to them yesterday. But what I'm hearing from you is the coach is looking for substance, not just content, but what was the substance behind that? And you mentioned something really interesting. Oh, you've said that 3 times now. What does that mean? And it's that ability to pay attention, to listen without judgment, and to be able to filter the substance from the content and stay curious and go, I think that's important. Let's explore that deeper. So in a world where we're all walking around in a world of content, a coach is helping you to sift away to find out what the real challenge is. Not the symptom, not the situation. What's the real challenge here for you? How does that sit with you?
Yeah, because we all want to be better, right? We all have a point B in our lives, but we all need help in terms of removing the blocks one by one. And the blocks can come in different form, values, beliefs, self-limiting beliefs. So that's perfect.
So 2 words are coming to mind there. One is awareness. So raising awareness to something that was previously unaware. So bringing to the conscious what was previously subconscious, I guess, would be one way of thinking of that. The second one I'm going to say is clarity. Because if your mind is full of clutter, it's full of content, you don't have a lot of clarity of what it all really means. So the coach is helping you achieve awareness, helping you achieve clarity about what does this really mean to you?
And the coach helps you pause, right? During that conversation, it's like a pause. Like you said earlier, we're all busy. We run around, focusing on tasks, things that are on our checklist. But in that coaching conversation, you are allowed to pause. And that helps you with clarity.
Yeah. You also used another C word not long back, and I want to explore that. Challenge. What role does challenge play in coaching?
A coach's role is not to be nice. As some may have, that kind of mindset. A coach's role is to push, again, so that the person will explore. So challenging a paradigm, challenging a belief, challenging a pattern of behavior, maybe the coach may have been observing if it's, if it has already been a series of conversations. That allows the coachee to become aware, because they may not be aware that there's a pattern. They may not be aware that, or they may be aware, but they're not accepting it fully. So for example, I've had some conversations wherein the commitment to achieve something that they said they wanted to achieve, but in the series of conversations, the commitment is very volatile. Hence, the behavior is not consistent. So if you reflect that back, that's challenging the person and saying, hey, you said you wanted to do this and you wanted to achieve this because the impact is 1, 2, and 3, and this is how important it is to you. But based on our previous conversations, it seems that you've been saying this, but you're doing something else. And then you pause and just let the person think. So they will either give you a reason, or most of the time they will accept that my commitment, or I'm not really 100% into this. Allowing them to just accept that, it allows them to be free, and freedom is a different feeling. So that's the role of challenging.
Yeah, I really like this, and I'm picking up 2 themes of this, Mariel. One is extrinsic, one is intrinsic. So an extrinsic belief might be something that they've said, like, I'm just not very good at public speaking, or I'm never going to be a writer, or whatever it is. An extrinsic limiting belief is something that they're able to verbalize and say, and it might be related to societal expectations even. So saying a belief out loud and challenging whether that belief was real or not. And then the intrinsic one, I'll explain where I got to with that. When I was hearing you, like let's say you got a coachee presents in front of you and they know what they should be doing, but they haven't damn well done it. You're going to challenge them to say, well, what, you know what you need to do. Why haven't you done it? And that sounds like a very confrontational way of saying it, but you're really trying to go, well, what's holding you back? What's really holding you back? What's the real challenge for you here? You're telling me and you're telling me that you need to do this and you haven't done it. So what's the real challenge for you? And now we're going to get deeper. How does that sit with you?
Of course, we don't ask it that way. That's why coach training is very important.
Yeah, I was being, deliberately provocative there, but really that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to dig to find, is there some deeper limiting belief that is creating the inaction?
Yeah. So there is a way to challenge without offending the person, without being, it's still confronting, but they understand why you're asking it, especially if you already have established that a very good relationship with the coachee.
Yeah. So tell us more. Give us some examples of how you would deal with, and keep in mind that this is the leadership project. So we've got a bunch of people listening to this show that are coaches that are going to benefit from your tips. We've got a bunch of leaders who could use these questions in a way to develop deeper, better relationships with their staff and get the best out of it, like create an environment where people can do their very best work and they can get on with doing things. So if you think on that from two elements, either imagine that you're speaking to a room full of coaches, imagine that you're speaking to a room full of leaders. What questions can we be asking in a way that isn't, confrontational and rude, but does challenge someone to bring out their best?
Okay. So like the example that I shared earlier, I verbalize the observation, especially if it has already been a series of conversations, whether it's a staff or a direct report or a coachee client. So verbalizing what you have been observing in a series of conversations, that helps because they know what they're doing and what they're not doing. And don't ask the question. That's my first style. Don't ask, just say this is what you have been observing, and then just stop and allow them to think about it, because most often than not, they will answer. They won't wait for you to, so what's the question? They won't do that because as you're verbalizing your observations, they're already thinking, what's up? Yeah, he noticed, she noticed, my coach noticed, something like that. So that's my common go-to. I verbalize the observation, I say it, and then I just wait for them. Second go-to is I ask them, so what will be different this time? In our last two conversations, you mentioned option 1 and 2, for example. You will do this, you will do this. What will be different this time? So that's the second go-to question. The third go-to question is, you said this and that in our previous session. What would compel you this time to really do it? So those are some of my go-to styles to challenge the coachee.
All right, really good. So what I'm seeing here in that challenge is also a leaning towards action. So now we're talking about, okay, we had some awareness, we spoke about some clarity. Now what we want to see is challenge what's holding you back so we can see some action. Instead of just talking about it from one session to the next session, we want to, transformation doesn't happen if we don't do something, right? So whether it's a shifting in mindset, shifting the way we see ourselves, eventually what we want to do is see some action. So how do we bring accountability now, personal accountability into a coachee's mind about what they're going to do after they leave the coaching session?
Usually to help my coachees or direct reports, I also use this with my direct reports, feel less overwhelmed. I keep it simple by just asking, what will you prioritize in the next 2 weeks? Let's say, for example, if it's related to managing their tasks, right? Or priority management or energy management. Okay, looking at your calendar in the next 2 weeks, what will you do first? So you mentioned 5. What will be your top 1, top 2? And if you start doing that, will, kickstart what you wanted to accomplish in the beginning. So what will that be? I just keep it practical. Next 2 weeks. Because if I ask a question that if I only ask, what are you going to do first? No, they may be thinking of a 1 month, 2 month horizon, especially if the goal is more for long term or for a quarter or for 6 months, So I just ask them, just taking it one step at a time, what will be your priorities for the next 2 weeks? What can you do in the next 2 weeks? And then if they say, okay, I can do this, if the action that they said depends on somebody else, so it's not only them that will do it, they have to talk to somebody, for example. Okay, is there an opportunity for you to do that in the next 2 weeks?
Yeah, I'm really loving this element towards action, absolutely. But then if the transformation or the task at hand seems very daunting, what do? You start with the first step. First step, second step. You don't have to do it all at once. And then we can build momentum, we can get some success, and we can keep moving forward. Really like it, Mariel.
And I also asked them, okay, you have a plan. Your priorities are clear. Looking at your next 2 weeks, as you try to do these 2 things, is there any challenge that you may be anticipating, that could derail you? So we also talk about that so that there will be less surprises. And our brain is sort of more ready because we anticipated the probable challenges. So we also talk about that.
anticipating an obstacle is a great way to know what you'll do if that obstacle does come in front of you, and build that accountability that I'm not going to stop at the first boulder on the road. I'm going to keep on going because this is important to me. Really good, Mariel. You touched on this a little bit when you said that you do this with your direct reports. There are a lot of people out there that say leadership is a coaching skill, like that leaders as coaches and moving away from, I'm going to say, the traditional stereotype of the boss who directs and tells people what to do, and moving towards this coaching and heightening mindset in a leader. What advice can you give to the leaders out there about how they can, it's a type of transformation, shift their leadership style into more of a coaching style?
Okay. First, let me begin by directing has a place. It is still important. So, for example, in my team, we have twice a month huddles. And in that huddles, I direct. The agenda is very clear. It's just for 1 hour. So, first Monday and third Monday. But during my one-on-one sessions, it's really a coaching session wherein they can talk about challenges at work or even challenges at home. I give them that space because most of the time, based on my past 3-year experience in doing coaching for my direct reports, it is the blocks at home that are preventing them from being productive at work. So like, for example, we were on a 2-year lockdown period, right, in the Philippines. So when all of a sudden lockdown was lifted and we were all expected to go back to work, I have direct reports who are moms. I am a mom too. So, doing the work of a mom, cooking for your kids, bringing them to school, and at the same time delivering for work, that causes a lot of challenges psychologically, not just physically. So adjusting to that, I needed to give them space to talk about it during a coaching conversation. So it differentiates now the intention of our huddles wherein we talk as a team and our one-on-one conversation. So they talk about challenges in terms of adjusting, challenges in terms of, we have a lot of resignations and this is impacting me even if the resignation is not within our team. So I allow them to talk about that. And when they do that, it also gives me the opportunity to understand them better and to know that, okay, even if this is not happening within our team, even if it's an organization-wide and we don't even know these people, who just resigned, but it affects them. It affects how they look at the organization. It affects how they feel about what they do, security perhaps. So my advice to all leaders is to give space for all. There's a time to direct, instruct, because if it's a strategy, of course, it will come from you, right? Aligning it with the organization's directions. But one-on-one should not be an avenue for updates in terms of work. You have that for the huddles. And if they know that, if that is predictable, there won't be any surprises, they will be ready. They will be ready because they're so used to it. The accountability will even be higher, but give them space to just be and talk to you openly during your one-on-ones. I have direct reports who sometimes it's coaching, sometimes it's mentoring, sometimes it's just consultation about work. And I just let them. No, I tell them if that is what you think, the best use of your time for this conversation, it's okay. You want to consult? Okay, what do you want to consult? Sometimes it's coaching. Sometimes, okay, I want to hear your thoughts on this. So I just give them that space. But there has to be a distinction. If you want to do this, don't mix it up. Huddles, meetings are for deliverables. One-on-ones are that gives you the chance to let them know and feel that you care about them as a person, not as a direct report, because there's a difference.
You've illustrated that really beautifully, Mariel. And the word that popped into my mind when you're talking is the word intentionality. And that is, as a leader, realize that there's different times and different places where showing up as a leader in a certain way is going to serve you and serve the team best. And there may be times where you're going to a meeting where I need to be inspirational. I need to talk about the vision, the purpose, the meaning, the impact of what we do to get people excited about the journey. There's going to be other times where the word might be clarity. I'm going to come in the meeting. I'm going to be clear about priorities. I'm going to be clear about expectations. I'm going to be clear about behaviors. And then there's going to be others where I'm going to go in and go, no, I need to hold space here. I'm going to go in. I'm going to listen without judgment. I'm going to deal with limiting beliefs or what the challenges that person, treat them like a human being. And it might be the word curious. So yeah, pick a word Pick a word. Have a look at your agenda for this week and look at all the different meetings you have, whether they're one-on-ones, team meetings, meeting with your boss. Pick a word and go, how am I going to show up for this meeting? Is it inspirational? Is it clarity? Is it curious? Pick a word, and then that will help you guide how you're going to show up as a leader. And every one of those is still being the same leader. It's just what is going to serve you best in that meeting. How does that sit with you?
Yeah. And you just have to be consistent, because you can't do it today or this week and then next week you're not going to do it anymore. That's why did I use the word cadence? We have a cadence in our team. So I've mentioned one, the huddles. The second one is the coaching session, one-on-ones. And then we have a general assembly once a month. And then we gather face-to-face once a quarter. So there is a cadence, and we do it consistently unless, there's something urgent that you need to push it back. But usually there's none. So there is a cadence for you to be consistent, because that helps.
Yeah, I love it. Cadence and consistency. I really like it, Mariel. We've already had lots of great takeaways today. I want to explore one more quick topic, and then we'll draw to a close with our rapid round questions. So you've been in the L&D environment inside organizations like AIA, etc., and you have explored and understand very clearly the differences between teaching, mentoring, and coaching. And it's been wonderful to hear those today. We have a lot of HR professionals listen to the show. If I am the head of HR, if I'm the head of L&D, what advice can you give to people about how they structure their L&D programs that embraces all of the mindsets that we've been talking about today, including teaching, mentoring, and coaching?
Well, I'm not an HR person. I'm with sales training, but based on experience, what I can share with you is make sure there is room when you have an L&D end-to-end process for all levels, of course, of employees. Make sure there is always a time to provide knowledge, skills, systems, but most importantly, paradigms. Because paradigms or mindsets are the biggest showstoppers or the biggest tool that can kickstart a team or a person to perform excellently. So when you look at your programs and, you somehow draw a pie chart, how much of that pie is providing knowledge and skills or systems of the organization? How much of it is really dealing with mindsets or paradigms or self-limiting beliefs or values that are no longer serving them, So how much of that do you have in your organization? Because I've always believed in holistic development, and it's always good to grow where we are planted. So we don't just teach them what they should know just because this is their function, but the objective is to teach them, train them, coach, mentor them to become a better person. Because when we are better persons, we become better in most of our roles, whether it's in our work or at home. So that's my advice to the HR professionals.
Nice one. I'll tell you what I'm taking away from that, and I might add just a little bit as I go. So what I'm hearing from all of our discussion today, if I bring it all together, if you've got a skill gap that needs to be filled, training. If you're wanting to learn from experience and to make sure we have that corporate knowledge that doesn't just bleed out of the organization when people retire, mentoring. And then if we want to work on people's paradigms, their ways of thinking, the ways they see themselves, and to have a performance mindset, it's coaching. And the answer is you need all three in your organization at different levels at different times for you to achieve what you can really achieve.
Yeah. And make sure that your structure is supporting it so that the leaders will do it. Because most of that, there are some organizations they offer, but because there's no structure to track or govern, then the leaders, they're not compelled to do it.
Yeah, it all needs to be intentional. It all needs to be aligned to the strategy, and you need to create the structure and the space, use your word again, to give people a space to do it. I've seen many organizations that say, we've got a mentoring program in place. And then you talk to the people. A, the mentors have not been trained on what it means to be a mentor. B, they don't have time to do the mentoring because the structure has not been put in place. And the mentees don't know how to find the mentors and, all of those things. So, and I just picked mentoring as the one example, but I could have used that in all three. Teaching needs to be intentional and structured. Mentoring needs to be intentional and structured. Coaching, you need to create the structure and the space that allows it to happen. All right, brilliant, Mariel. This has been absolutely wonderful. I've adored this conversation. I'd now like to bring us to our rapid round. These are the same 4 questions that we ask to all our guests. So what's the one thing that you know now, Mariel Tablan, that you wish you knew when you were 20?
It's coaching, because with coaching, I transformed as a person. I transformed as a mom. I transformed as a wife. And I'm getting a bit emotional here. But my biggest ROI in coaching is really me changing, becoming a better person.
So any budding coaches out there, coaching changed lives. Hint, it changes your life too. All right, well done, Mariel. I like that. What's your favorite book?
I don't have a favorite book, because each book that I read, I get something out of it. But the latest one is The 5 Choices, The Path to Extraordinary Productivity. And the one thing that I got there is moment of choice: pause, clarify, and decide. So those 3 simple words have helped me so much in the past 2 years.
Oh, I like that a lot. That may or may not lead us to, what is your favorite quote?
Oh, I have a favorite quote, and I hope I say the name correctly. It's by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. And he says, "If I accept you as you are, I will make you worse. However, if I treat you as though you are what you are capable of becoming, I help you become that."
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a deep mindset shift there in a second person position. I would take that away and say we can apply that same mindset as a first person as well, like through the first person lens, and go, if we behave like the person that we want to become, guess what? We become them. Yeah, that's really cool. But I love that second person position that you just did there, Mariel. That was awesome. And finally, if people would like to know more, I'm sure people learnt so much from this discussion, Mariel. If they want to find you and connect with you, how do they do so?
Oh, you can find me on LinkedIn. If you just search my name, Mariel Tablan. I'm the only Mariel Tablan there. So I'm on LinkedIn. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram. I'm starting a YouTube channel. So I have a few videos that I've already shared there. So I'm in those social media platforms.
Outstanding. Thank you so much, Mariel. It's been such a pleasure having you on the show. I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. I've learnt a lot, and I know that our audience would have as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mick. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to The Leadership Project at mixbeers.com. A huge call out to Faris Sadek for his video editing of all of our video content, and to all of the team at TLP. Joanne Goes On, Gerald Calabo, and my amazing wife, Say Spears. I could not do this show without you. Don't forget to subscribe to the Leadership Project YouTube channel, where we bring you interesting videos each and every week. And you can follow us on social, particularly on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Now, in the meantime, please do take care, look out for each other, and join us on this journey as we learn together and lead together.